All right, so we'll do midpoint for the definite integral from 0 to 3 of 7 plus the square root of x plus 5 to the 2/3 on 12 intervals. So first thing I need in my y equals is to get the function in there. So this is the function that I'm working on. And then I'm going to go to, let's see, I think I can maybe zoom out and see the buttons that I'm working on here a little bit. So, wow, I zoomed way out, somewhere in between there. Okay, so the first button that I need, I think I can get in a little bit closer even than that and still see what we need to do. Okay, so second quit out of that, and then the stat to take a look at my list, stat and edit. And I need to clear all of my lists out, so up into the header row, clear and enter. Clear is oftentimes a dangerous button, as if you're writing programs, whole giant lines of code can disappear. So midpoint, if we're going from 0 to 12, or from 0 to 3 and 12 intervals, the first one would go from 0 to 0.25, and the middle of that would be 1/8 or 0.125. So I'm going to go into here and second list operations, choose the sequence, and I want x. Variable will be x. I'm going to start at 0.125, and I'm going to end at 3 minus 0.125. Let's see if it takes that. 3 minus 0.125. See if it'll do the math for me, and go up by 0.25. And let's try pasting that in there. So I'll kind of scan through that list. And a couple of things that I like for confirmation here is my last one. It says it's the 12th position, and I'm going to be making 12 rectangles. So this tells me that I have 12 values in there. That's what I want. Okay, so it kind of confirms that. So I'll go back up to the top here, and in list 2, I want to evaluate the function at those points. I could kind of combine some steps here, but we'll break it up. And so I'm going to go to the variables, y variables, the function variables, and there's the y1 where I stored this equation. And I want to evaluate that at all the points in L1 and create a new list with 12 things in it. Okay. So these now are the heights of all of those rectangles. I want the areas of all of the rectangles. Okay, so they're all 0.25 in the width. So I could do that in another list, or I could just take care of that on the home screen. Okay. So if I go to second quit, all those things that I need there now are in list 2. And so if I can do this a couple of different ways, probably. I'm going to do second list and go over into the math, because there's an option to add up everything, and I could put this 0.25 inside, or I could put it outside. So there is the width, and then I'm going to multiply each of those widths by the heights that I calculated, and that will give me the areas of all of them, and the sum command should add them all together, and so there is my midpoint approximation. Okay. If I'm showing this up by hand, then I have that list of numbers in there that I can go back and look at that list and copy down the numbers that I need. Okay. So there is an example of how to do the midpoint one. Let's go ahead and throw Simpsons on here as well. So for Simpsons rule, let's go back to my lists. This is not the list of numbers that I need there, and so this will clearly not be the y values that I need. And here, second list operations, option 5. Again, this one I'm going to start at 0 and go to 3 and jump up by 0.25, again because that's 12 intervals over the course of 3 spaces. And I'll get those in there. And then I'll get the y values of those. So vars, y vars, function y1, parentheses of the numbers in the list L1. And now this is where I need to remember the Simpsons rule formula, which said that I'm going to use the first value once, the second value 4 times, the third value twice, and then 4 times, and then twice, and then 4 times, and twice, and then 4 times, and the last value once. So I'm going to put those multipliers in here. Once there, 4 of those, 2 of those, 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 4 of those, and kind of my check that things are working right is that after the 4, it's time now to put a 1. If that next to last one had been a 2, then I either put something wrong in or I had an odd number of intervals, and Simpson's rule doesn't work on an odd number of intervals. Okay. So now I'm going to go over 1 enter. In L4, I want to multiply all of those things by the multipliers that I just put in. So in my header row, I'm going to say take the numbers that are in L2 and multiply them by the numbers that are in L3. Okay. And so my process now, if I remember what Simpson's rule formula was, it was h over 3, my h is 0.25, over 3 times the sum of the numbers that I now have in list 4. So I'll go back to my home screen. My h was 0.25 divided by 3 times the sum. So that's going to be in my list math. Option 5 is the sum, and I had those in L4. And so there's my Simpsons rule approximation. And